All right, let's move on to part 3. Okay, so part 3, we're looking at the thigh and the legs. Okay, okay. So the posterior compartment of the thigh. Okay, so okay. Let's see if I can show you what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, so here. So this is what happens when you step forward. Okay, so I'm walking, obviously. This is called the foreswing. Okay, this leg is called the backswing. So when I foreswing, I flex the hip and I extend the knee. Okay, that is all the anterior compartment of the thigh. The posterior compartment is this leg. I am flexing the knee and I'm extending the hip. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right. Okay, the amino compartment of the thigh adducts the thigh. It closes the thigh. Okay. 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 The leg also has 3 compartments: anterior compartment in the front, posterior compartment in the back. Okay. The anterior compartment is going to dorsiflex. Okay, and it's going to control extension of the toes. Okay, you realize that they're both going the same way. They're, if you're standing up, they're going up. Okay, the posterior compartment is going to be plantar flex, okay, and flexion of the toes. If you're standing, they're going down. Okay, the lateral compartment is really small and it's only going to be for everting of the foot. Okay, all right, so you can see those there. Okay, so I like to explain this by looking at one joint at a time. So let's look at the hip. Okay, so the hip. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, so the hip, I can flex, I can extend, I can abduct, and I can adduct. Okay, so flexion of the hip, I'm going to use all of the muscles here, okay, on top of my hip, okay, and in front of the thigh. Okay, so the big muscle there is going to be my iliopsoas, my iliacus, okay, which is, let me show you the slide first, and then I'll come back on it. Okay, so this right here is the iliacus. Okay, so if I'm lifting, okay, if I'm lifting my leg here, most of it is going to come from the iliacus, which is right on the iliac crest. Okay, the other muscle is going to be psoas major. That's attached to my vertebrae up here. So these two combined form one bigger muscle called the iliopsoas. Okay, the other thing that's helping hold my hip up, okay, is these two muscles here. One that crosses all the way across, okay, and that's the Sartorius, okay. It starts off from the iliac spine all the way to the front here. So that's the Sartorius, okay. The Sartorius also allows me to cross my like sit crossing, like how like kids sit in kindergarten, you know, when they had kindergarten. Okay. The other one it's going to be my IT band. The tensor fascia lata is this little muscle here. It's going to tighten up this side of my thigh, so I can actually hold up my thigh. Okay. So tensor fascia lata here. Okay. Sartorius here, and then these guys right here. Okay. So as major iliacus. Okay. All right. So now about the opposite, which is extension of the hip. Extension of the hip, we'll have to use the muscles that are behind the hip. Behind the hip is going to be these guys right here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus. They are going to be for. Okay. Watch my back leg now. Okay. Okay. Watch my back leg. Okay. When I go backwards, I'm using my hamstrings now. Okay. My hamstrings allow me to do that. Okay. And to bring my hip back. Okay. Right. Okay. So that's my hamstrings. The other muscle that can get involved, if I actually throw a hard kick backwards, I'm going to use my gluteus maximus to actually help extend forcefully backwards. But if I'm just walking, okay, I'm just using the hamstring muscles on the back of the thigh here. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Okay, so here, these are the 3 hamstrings. That's the gluteus maximus. Now, abduction and adduction. Abduct, okay, is move away, and so I'm going to use, okay, muscles on the outside of the hip. And if you notice, the only muscles that are on the outside of the hip, okay, that are lateral to the hip are the glutes right here. Okay, so gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and underneath it the gluteus minimus, which is on the next slide here, gluteus minimus, that those are going to abduct the hip. The adductors have to be on the other side of the joint, so they have to be on the medial side of the joint and underneath the hip. And you'll see those right here. Okay, adductor longus, okay, underneath that adductor magnus, pectineus, gracilis, okay, and the adductor brevis, which you can't see, is deeper than that, okay. The gracilis is a weird little muscle, okay. It actually not only does it bring the thigh in, it actually brings in the leg as well. And so what it does is it allows, the way to explain it is sitting gracefully. In the Victorian days, sitting gracefully meant, you know, sitting cross-legged, okay, for females, right? So that's what the Sartorius, or that's what the Gracilis allows you to do, okay? Okay. We covered the hip. The next joint I'm gonna cover is the knee. The knee I can flex and extend. Okay. So flexion is going to be the same muscles that control extension of the hip. They're control flexion of the knee, because remember the knee is flipped around embryonically, and therefore going backwards is flexion, going forward is extension. So the muscles that are involved in flexion of the knee are the hamstrings. Okay, the muscles that will be involved in extension of the knee are going to be the quadriceps, and you can see it over here. Okay, rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and underneath all that is the vastus intermedius. Okay. All right. So we covered all those. Okay, so the leg, okay, the leg is divided into 3 compartments. So the anterior compartment has 3 muscles that you have to know, okay? Tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, okay? These 3, the easy way to remember these 3, Tom, Nick, and Carrie, okay? Tibialis anterior, Tom, digitorum longus, Nick, hallucis longus, Harry. Okay, they're in the front, so they're going to extend the toes. Okay, so you can see that, oops, here. Okay, so here's the tibialis anterior. See, if you follow all the way down, it doesn't go to the toes. It stops in the middle of the foot. Okay, what goes all the way to the big toe is the extensor hallucis longus, and then what goes to the little toes is the extensor digitorum longus. Okay, so if I ask you guys to extend your toes, okay, or flex your toes, you guys will do all 4 of them together usually. Okay, you can learn to use like individual toes, but usually you don't, because I don't know, because you don't really need that to survive or anything. Okay, so the when you use these 4 together, you're using the whole extensor digitorum longus. When you're actually able to control them, you're using the brevis right here. Okay, okay. The Amino compartment of the foot, the lateral compartment of the foot, it just has 2 muscles, the femorolaris longus, femorolaris brevis, and all those to do is to evert the foot. And you can see that there. This muscle here and this muscle here combine to evert the foot. Sorry, okay, evert the foot. So out. Okay, all right. The muscles of the posterior compartment. Okay, here the big muscles here are the gastrocnemius and the soleus. Together, they're known as the triceps surae. Okay. These 2 muscles also combine at the very end and form the calcaneal tendon or the Achilles tendon. Okay, there is the plantaris right there, but again, just like the palmaris longus, there are people who are missing the plantaris. Okay, about 20%. Okay, if you strip away those muscles, you see the Tom, Dick, and Harry muscles again. Tibialis posterior, okay, flexor hallucis longus, and flexor digitorum longus. Okay, all right. You're not responsible for the rest of these guys. Okay, so I will see you guys in class.